All right, so let's talk about ways for a group to approach problem solving. And we're going to talk about John Dewey's reflective thinking framework. And while it's presented here in this chapter on group problem solving, it's a problem solving model that works individually as well. And it has 6 essential steps. The first step is to define the problem. So you gotta look around and decide where is the problem. What is the situation that you're going to address? And when you're defining a problem for your group to work on, you got to make sure that it is a clear problem that allows a wider variety of answers than just yes or no. We're going to be developing a solution as a group, and so we need to make sure that the problem suits that group dynamic and the decision-making process. We don't want to just pick, is the sky blue? Yes or no. That's not the kind of problem you're going to deal with as a group and going to present a solution. So first of all, you define the problem. Make sure it's a problem that you can work with, that'll generate more than one answer, and that you can pick the best answer. The second step is to analyze the problem. So the group will look at the problem and determine what causes the problem, what's the history of the problem, how severe is the situation, who's affected by the problem. This is where you get to know the problem. You become familiar with all the different realms that are affected by the problem, all the different ins and outs of this problem. This is not solution phase. This is just analytic phase. We're looking at it and we're trying to come to an understanding of it. This is, as a preacher, perhaps when you're looking at a passage, this is where you're doing the background work, where you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the social setting? What context is this in? How does that impact it? You're just trying to get the context of the problem. The third step is establishing solution criteria. Before you get around to starting to discuss solutions to the problem, you've got to first define what a good solution is. Establish criteria for evaluating solutions. In a group project, you're going to come up with a lot of different solutions. You're going to have a brainstorming session. Everybody's going to throw out ideas, and you need a way, an agreed upon way, a way that the entire group agrees to evaluate those solutions, a criteria that the best, most optimal solution will accomplish these things. It'll do this, and it'll benefit this group, and it's going to, and it won't have these negative drawbacks. And so you kind of get a criteria to work from. Once you have a criteria in place, then your fourth step is to begin to generate solutions and evaluate them against that criteria. So this is your brainstorming phase. This is where the group begins to produce different ideas about the solution and begins to evaluate every solution on the basis of the criteria that you've already agreed upon. Once you start giving solutions, it's too late to settle on a criteria. And this is where groups get in problems. They get these loggerheads going on where he's got an idea and he's got an idea and they both think theirs is best. And if you haven't established a criteria to evaluate what is best, maybe not the best overall solution, what's best to meet the goals of the group, that is what the criteria helps you establish, and it'll help decide which of these two ideas is best. The fifth step is selecting the best solution. So that after you've thrown out a bunch of different solutions and you've evaluated them according to the criteria that you have pre-decided, you're going to pick the best one. Now you got to understand there are going to be there may be more than one good solution. In a group, there may be more than one solution that actually works. There's more than one way to skin a cat. You're looking for the best solution, not the only one that works, but the best one. And the best one is determined on the basis of the criteria that you established as a group. You've already determined together as a group how to measure what's best. So now you want to focus on that criteria and you want to establish what is the best solution. So all of this goes back to steps 3 and 4, where you were setting up your criteria and then evaluating solutions and trying to decide which one best meets the criteria. This is how you arrive at the best solution. The sixth step and the last step is implementing the solution, implementation. You've got to implement that solution that you've come up with as a group. In a group project for a college class, that probably means presenting the solution. You've got to put together your presentation and you've got to present it to an audience and convince them that this is the best approach and these are the reasons why. And you've got all of that ammunition already in the criteria that you developed for selecting the best solution. One way that you come up with those various solutions is brainstorming. Use brainstorming to come up with new ideas, to work through all the old ideas and get past them to new ideas. And brainstorming it should be a group project. Everybody in the group should be involved, and it allows all members of the group to spontaneously provide ideas. And when you get in group brainstorming, there are some ground rules you need to lay. If you're the leader of the group, these are things you need to make sure everybody understands. First of all, suspend all judgment. Brainstorming is not the time to evaluate. That we'll evaluate in a little bit. We have criteria for that. But first, we got to get some ideas about solutions. And so we're not going to judge solutions. We're going to allow everybody to freely throw out ideas, like free thinking on the part of everybody in the group. We want no idea is too crazy, no idea is too wild, no idea is outside of the lines. Now, in the evaluation phase, we'll help narrow things down, and we'll get back to the direction we want to go. But if you allow brainstorming to get outside of the lines, that's how you come back to a solution that you never would have thought about. And so the idea behind brainstorming is quantity over quality. More ideas, not necessarily better ideas. The better ideas will rise from the mass of more ideas. So you're looking for quantity of ideas. And when you're brainstorming as a group, you need to appoint somebody that it is their job to record every idea. We don't want any idea getting lost in the shuffle. We want to get them all down. We want to get them all together. We want to know what every idea was that we came up with. And then at the end of the brainstorming, then we do our evaluation. We already have criteria in place that we've settled on, and we evaluate our ideas on the basis of the criteria that we have established. The final part of this chapter, and I may be leaving a little bit out here at the end, but the last thing that I want to discuss about this chapter is the 5 sequential stages that a group moves through. This is good fertile ground for test questions for the final, and so you need to look it over and you need to familiarize yourself with these stages. There are 5 of them. The first is the forming stage, and the forming stage occurs when the group experiences confusion about their roles. Everybody's getting together, trying to meet everybody, trying to determine how the group is going to work, how the group is going to operate. And then once you're past the forming stage, you enter the storming stage. And that is what happens when you start to evaluate the task and different conflicts begin to arise. You know, you got different strengths and weaknesses and different ideas pull in different directions, and things are kind of unstable in that storming stage as the group is trying to find its footing and determine the criteria that evaluates or that is used to evaluate success. We're trying to decide which direction this group is going to go, how we're going to pull together, what role everybody's going to be in, who the leader is going to be. You know, that's that storming stage. And then the third stage is the norming stage. And the norming stage is whenever a defined structure begins to emerge. Now you've got a leader. Now you've got roles and responsibilities. Now everybody knows where their strengths come to bear on the topic at hand, on the problem that we have. And so we begin to normalize as a group. Once you hit the norming stage, then you're ready to move into the performing stage. And the performing stage is what happens when the group actually begins to accomplish its task. We actually begin to consider solutions and evaluate them. And all of a sudden we're working together. And all of a sudden we're all pulling together. We've all got our strengths are working in the same direction. We move past forming and storming and norming, and now we are performing. Then the final thing that we do is we adjourn. That adjourning stage happens whenever you're through with the project and group members decide it's time to settle right here, call it quits, we're done, we've accomplished what we came to do, and we disband the group. So group has a life cycle, and there are 5 stages to it: forming, storming, norming, performing, and then I don't know how adjourning gets in there. It doesn't rhyme with everything else. You need an orming to get in the sequence of everything else, but there you go. Adjourning is just different. That's when we cut it off and we're finished.